Greetings everyone, Joseph James here once again with your nightly newsletter brought to you by theschooloftrade.com. Today was November 18th, 2009. Before we talk about the trades we took today in the live trade room, let's talk about that free resource online at youtube.com/School of Trade. While you're there, please subscribe to our channel that we get all the new videos. Please rate and comment on this video, and then if you're watching this on YouTube right now, right below the video in the description of this video, you'll see a link for our track record. Click on that link and you'll see the track record we've taken all of our trades with throughout the last 12 months in our live trade room. Let's take a look at the trade room totals for today. 69 ticks today. Wonderful day in the room. Of course, today was a Wednesday. We had crude oil number at 10:30. We'll talk about that a little bit later. 32 ticks on Monday, 32 ticks on Tuesday, and 69 ticks here this morning live trade room. That brings our weekly total to 1330. Our monthly total just over 5,000 bucks, and of course we're averaging every day, guys, now over 500 bucks here in our live trade room on just 4 contracts. If you're still sitting on the fence, guys, we are going to be raising the cost of our membership in December. Now is the time to jump in, grab that lifetime membership while it's still cheap. Let's talk about the term of the day today is the trigger line. Now, what is the trigger line? We use this all the time in our trade room. It's on every single one of the charts we use. Well, it's a dynamic indicator always recalculating, right? A dynamic indicator is always changing. And this trigger line is used for entries, it's used for targets, it's used for stops. It's basically considered to be a major level of support and resistance on any one of your time frames. Fastest, fast, medium, or slow time frames. We're always watching for where that trigger line is. Now for entries, on the wave setup, I want to make sure this is above or below my swing high or my swing low. Now in the breaker pattern, we look for a nice steep slope to it. Breaker pattern is a trend continuation pattern, which means I want my trigger line to have a nice steep slope. Avoid a breaker pattern when we see a flat trigger line. Now for the two-step pattern, we simply need to make sure that the trigger line is within our 6 to 8 ticks of our entry. The most common use of our trigger line is to see does it have steep slope or lack of slope. A vertical trigger line, a trigger line that has a nice steep slope to it, something that's really moving, that's going to tell me a trending market. And again, we're looking for breaker patterns in a trending environment. If I see a horizontal or a flat slope or a lack of any slope to that trigger line, that shows horizontal price action, sideways markets, which means there's no defined control, which means we're looking for a two-step. Of course, guys, we'll talk about that in our live trade room, so come out and join us tomorrow morning. We'll talk more about the trigger line, of course, how you find your charts, how you can use this trigger line for your entries, your exits, your stops, your targets. And of course, tomorrow morning we'll open up at 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning. Don't forget, tomorrow's a Thursday, so of course tomorrow we will be doing another free webinar in our room. Tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern Time, we'll do a free webinar tomorrow. On your way into the room tomorrow morning, guys, grab a copy of the beginner's course. The beginner's course will give you guys the who, what, where, when, and why about what we do in the trade room. We're going to be packing up tomorrow after we close the room and headed to Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada for the Traders Expo. Let's look at some of the trades we took today. Now, we had a pretty good day today. Although we had a little bit of trouble getting off the start this morning, had a pretty slow market at the open. Didn't see very much until about 9:15. We had this news release. Now, here's what happened. At 9:15 this morning, just about when I started telling people that the risk in the market begins to increase after 9:15, before 9:30, right? We usually avoid trades from 9:15 to 9:30. But what happened this morning? This morning, we had some news chatter come out. And at 9 o'clock this morning, some members of the Fed were speaking, and they made a comment that basically said they were not going to be moving interest rates up until possibly 2012. Now, of course, this is 2009. So telling the mass majority of the traders this morning at 9 o'clock that the Fed was considering leaving rates this low, right, historically low, for another 3 years, actually 2 years, right, 2 years and a month. Well, that, of course, came as a surprise for a lot of us, and we expected to see this market react accordingly. And, of course, it did just that. This is our first of the day. It was a little bit higher risk, of course, because it happened after 9:15. But again, the reason why was because we had this news release. And at 9:15, right, we had this news release, and we expected to see some pretty darn good price action after that. Anytime the Fed comes out and says, hey, guys, we're going to keep interest rates low for a couple more years, what happens? Well, the bond markets explode, right? The bond markets, of course, got very jumpy. And then anything tied to the U.S. dollar, right, because interest rates, of course, affect our U.S. dollar currency, anything tied to the dollar will, of course, get jumpy as well. So bonds, gold, crude oil, T-notes, certain things in the Eurex, right, obviously a lot of things will move because of it, but the majority of it will happen on things tied to the U.S. dollar. So, of course, I immediately looked at crude and gold, and we began looking for patterns. Now, very important, though, at this point, we were still after 9:15, so we really had to be careful. So when you see this stuff happen in the future, guys, remember, a news release can be a good thing and a bad thing. it's a bad thing if we just simply jump into the market without any real rules, patterns, or any real identity as far as who has control over price. If we follow our rules, though, then we're of course also we're just fine. But make sure we didn't just jump into this morning, guys, just because we heard the news chatter. We had to wait for the patterns. What that news chatter did, though, is it gave us a little bit of inkling that we may see some more volume come in than we were ready for it. So 9:15, the news release came out. Then, of course, just after that, 9:20, we saw our first high percentage pattern. Now, at this point, guys, right, the short-term trend was up. And this happened twice today on gold, where we had the high of the day here. We were looking for a breaker long to get above that high here, right? However, the buyers, they ran out of gas. So when the buyers run out of gas, and of course, like I said this today in the room, guys, I'm always looking for, at the high of the day, I'm always looking to sell the highs and look for the two-step short. That's exactly what happened here again. We saw a swing low, came down below this 49.8 level. 49.4 was a swing low. We break below that swing low. Entry here was at 49.1. And of course, we took just only 4 ticks to the first target. We took half our position off at 4 ticks, tying up 8 ticks or $80 on that first trade. Not a huge winning trade, but I want to give you guys an example of how sometimes you'll be able to make a decision like that to go into the market at some maybe some higher risk parts of the market. Use your rules, follow your plan of attack, and you'll be just fine. Let's keep moving here. Next trade here was on the gold once again, and it looked very similar to the first trade we took. Now the first trade we took was before 9:30, so we had a little bit of money in our pocket going into the 9:30 open. Now remember, guys, we still were looking at pretty slow price action. Now when I see slow price action going into, again, short-term trend here was up, high of the day, right? Same thing we saw before. The buyers, they run out of gas, and then of course we're looking for, right, the reversal here for a two-step short. Almost the exact same pattern that we saw at 9:15. Now here at just before 10 o'clock, we saw the high of the day tested. I'm always thinking of the high of the day, two-step short, right? Counter trend trade. And I look for the two-step short pattern, and there it is. Very simple pattern here. And of course, swing low at 52.3. We break below that swing low, and there's your entry at 2.3. We took 4, 8, and then 13. 29 ticks there, guys, for $290 on that second trade here on gold. Now that pretty much wrapped up our gold trading for the day, but we'd already made, right, 29 ticks there, 8 ticks in the first one, so we were looking pretty good, and we kept moving. Now, on crude this morning, what do we have on crude? We had a 10:30 news event. The inventories, right? Crude and gasoline distillate inventories at 10:30 this morning. So, of course, we expect to have a little bit more difficulty seeing patterns develop before 10:30 on crude, but after 10:30, that's when the party starts. Once again, here was our short-term trend was up. Now, this time, guys, this happened basically just exactly when my alarm was going off at 10:35. We wait for 10:35, 5 minutes after the 10:30 news, and right when the alarm clock went off, right at 10:35, we knew this pattern was setting up. We broke above this red line here, right at 80.02. We made a swing high, 80.04. We then broke above that swing high for your breaker long, and again, right at 10:35, right when the alarm was going off, enter here at 80.11. We took 4 and 2. That locks up 12 ticks or $120 on that first trade of the day on crude, third trade overall. And then, of course, our last trade of the day, our second trade on crude, happened shortly thereafter again. About an hour later here, 11:28. Now, we had just begun to see the lunchtime session start to transition. Things started to slow down. Rain started to get tighter. We started seeing red pace of a tape. Once again, short-term trend was up. We broke above this very key red line here. Again, that red line is located for me automatically. We made the swing high here at 80.08, and then of course we broke above that swing high for our entry here at 80.11. This was a breaker long. We took 4 and then 1. That totals 10 ticks there for $100 on that final trade. Finishing up our day here on a great note. Dealt with some slow price action, but we waited patiently for the last hour from 10:30 to 11:30 to make sure that when we dig into the trade, it was going to be the trade that we wanted to wait for. And as always, guys, come out and join us tomorrow morning. Live trade room will open up at 7:45 Eastern Time tomorrow, Thursday. We also have a webinar tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern Time, so come out and join us for that. Grab a copy of the beginner's course on the way in. Please rate and comment on this video. If you want more information about lifetime membership, please drop us an email at sales@schooloftrade.com. My name is Joseph James. We'll see you guys in the trade room tomorrow morning, 7:45 a.m. Don't miss a tick. Bye-bye for now.